Okay. Several minutes later, I read a little bit ahead here because it wasn't clear who's speaking now. Apparently it's Juff in conversation with Lucario rather than Chris, as I had previously assumed. So yeah, several minutes later. Is it not enough for you to behead creatures? I'm so very sorry, really. I went too far with my strength again. Oh, really now? Apparently, beheading is a level lower than blowing creatures' intestines. I do like that incredible strength of yours, but there is something called control that does work wonders by preventing these accidents from happening. If it's not much, at least this time the blood... At least this time the blood vaporized before it could soak my hand. Wow, I think you're really focusing on the appropriate issues here, Lucario. Yeah, no. The problem wasn't with the fact that you brutally murdered this person. The problem was with the fact that, there could have been blood everywhere. But thank goodness you solved that by fucking making his blood evaporate. That's really good. I'm proud of you. And I'm sure they're proud of you too. Gah! Don't say that. Sorry. Could we please just stop talking about intestines? Chris pleaded, clutching his stomach. I can't bear it any longer. Blah. Lucario just couldn't stop getting scolded by Juff. Chris could have joined in, but he was too busy trying so hard to forget about the mentally scarring scene, I'll say. It was futile, sadly, as the argument between the other two only fueled his thoughts with scary mental pictures. Lucario's super strength was surely a good thing, but now Chris started to regret why the hell he got an obscenely powerful Pokemon that could kill anybody in one blow. Why not a normal one, he thought, a normal Pokemon in the real world. Perhaps he was more of a wimp than he thought that he was, in serious need of a super being to keep him very safe. Keeping his health safe, on the other hand, was an afterthought that went largely ignored. Is he always like this? Juff asked Chris, but the young kid wasn't ready to answer, seeing as his face looked sick and about to puke. I can infer from your reactions that he hasn't done this too much, which means I'm having bad luck. Well, Chris managed to say, catching a second breath, I like how protective he is. It's just that he can get out of hand sometimes. He lied. Back in the real world, the only enemy Lucario faced off on a regular basis was hunger and the occasional video game boss whenever he felt like playing something. Those weren't really worthy enemies to mention. He means well. Lucario nodded for support. Juff sighed a little as they came across a metal building that overlooked a sea of trees far down below a tall cliff. Coming to a stop, the group wasn't open to the idea of climbing down. There wasn't a path anywhere else, meaning that they came to a dead end. Only reason I haven't turned down your offer to escort me to Paula is that his help, no matter how sickening, is an invaluable tool for my survival. Our survival, he reiterated until looking down at the old building next to them. This building right... Looking down? No, just looking at the old building next to them. If they were looking down at it, they wouldn't be next to it. Good job, brain. This building right here is the only spot we can enter. I don't see another path going south unless we dive into the forest down below. The building was odd-looking because of its metallic walls and roof, but it was better than nothing, Chris thought. Let's ask for directions inside this place, he suggested as he walked around the construction, finding a metal door. Why? How could he ask for directions if it's abandoned? Whatever. Okay, I've never gotten close to a door like this. Weakly knocking on the door, Chris gasped when it opened up by itself. The other two got to his side and exchanged confused glances until they decided to enter. Lucario had already sensed a blue aura inside. Dr. Andonuts' lab. The cold from the outside couldn't hope to reach inside the building, as there was a warm heating system keeping the temperature at a stable level. Feeling some sweat, Chris took his jacket off and carried it on his arms as they inspected the place. It was a lab that had many weird-looking machines leaning against the walls, with tables displaying many unfinished gadgets and tools. Among these were devices Chris thought were toys, but there was a good chance everything was real. No doubt a scientist lived in the building somewhere. Said scientist hadn't noticed them coming in, as he was busy tinkering with other devices on another table. It was an old man dressed in a white lab coat. He sported glasses that looked similar to Juff's. He had a long white moustache that was coupled with the impossibly tall sideburns that stood on the sides of his ears, acting as his hair since he was bald. It was the somewhat renowned scientist Dr. Andernuts. Juff had a hunch that it was his father. Okay. That's convenient. He just stumbles across this random place in the fucking forest. He opens a door. He finds a laboratory. He sees a scientist. And he immediately guesses correctly that it is his father, whom, to my knowledge, he has never met. Okay, that's a fairly normal plot development, I think. You know, I think this should win the Man Booker Prize, or whatever the American equivalent of that is. You know, just Pulitzer, perhaps. Yeah, the Pulitzer Prize. Yeah, no, this is really well thought through, I think. Jeff had and even then, after all that, I fucked it up again. Juff had a hunch that it was his father. He cleared his throat loudly enough for the scientist to hear him out. "Hello," he said. "Hmm?" The scientist looked up from his workstation and turned to the direction of the entrance. Staring a long while at the fascinating creature that was Lucario, he then noticed the blonde kid waving his arms to look at him. "Oh, I didn't see you coming in," he said. "What brings you? Wait, could it be?" He approached Jeff. You're my son." Okay, wow, yeah, no, I guess that he was right. Well, that's awfully nice, isn't it? Touching family reunion. Ellipsis. Juff fixed his glasses and rubbed a small tear from his right eye. "I got a feeling that told me you were my dad," he responded. "It's nice to see you at last, Dad." "Well, I'll be," his dad said. "The day you finally ventured out from the boarding school finally came. Having you around the lab would have been disastrous when you were younger. There was an explosion almost every day. Back then, I was young and naive. Suddenly, all my bottled-up frustration at you has disappeared." All it took was 2 sentences. 2 or 3 sentences. And all your bottled-up frustration at his lack of communication completely vanished. That's how abandonment works, kids. It can just be forgotten in a second. That's realistic. Yes, it is. Chris then started to wonder what kind of family they were. Juff was put in a boarding school just so that his dad's inventions wouldn't kill the blonde in an explosion, but there was something awfully wrong and stupid about the reason. He wanted to question the poor excuse of a father for even going so far as to imagine my complete lack of housing issues when I sold my house for this lab in Winters. A terrible accent. Dr. Andernuts said, laughing for a bit. "I could only barely afford a table for me to sleep on, and I twist a lot during my sleep. Having you around 10 years ago would have been a nightmare for you. You would have hated me even more if you missed an arm or an eyebrow." Chris couldn't believe men like Dr. Andernuts even existed. Juff fell speechless for a moment. "You know what? I'm so very glad that you put me in that boarding school. I don't regret it one bit. Nope, not at all." Chris and Lucario exchanged dull, sideways glances at each other. "Indeed, that saved your life countless times," Dr. Andernuts said. "Well, either way, I'm glad you made it all the way here, my son.
I'm so happy to have you back.